Thank you for joining us for part 2 of this conversation of the recounting of my first experience at the Blue Ball Inn. So, in order to just kind of help set the space again, we'll start by a replay of the song that I sang to begin this episode last week. And that will just help to really bring in our sovereignty and our boundaries and clear everything away and put you in just the right place to be able to continue with our conversation this week. So, up next is the song, and then we'll just jump right back into our conversation where we left off last week. Okay, so we get to the end. She's like, all right, you ready? And I'm like, yeah, let's do this. I am totally ready. And we get there, and I got to meet Joseph and Taryn, which I was so excited to get to meet because I'd heard all about them, but I hadn't gotten to meet them. So they came over and graciously welcomed me. And Tava asked if they minded if walk around a little bit, and they were so nice. So we went into the house and I was like, whoa, okay, yeah, all right, no, I'm fine. And in the foyer, and there are these curios that have all of these things that were things that Joseph had originally found in the house, and one of which is a crucifix. I think the only thing I actually really took in visually was that crucifix, because it was instantly apparent to me that there was such intense energy in all of those. I was like, oh, I need to not stare at those things. Like, I need to just
Yeah.
sort of gloss over. And I automatically started humming. And because they were still in the house then too, and I was like, I don't know how odd it's going to be that I've just
Oh, they're used to
spontaneously
us.
break into like
They're used to us.
into song. And so I started humming, and I realized the singing is going to really help with my energy and helping to keep me in a good place. And you took me in the parlor, and we said hello to Mary Elizabeth. And was it Samuel you said, or that
Yes,
sometimes
Samuel. I think I
walks
was
around
doing
there
my greeting
too?
where I say hi to everybody whose names I know. I was actually really glad. So the odds of Karen and Joseph being there on a Tuesday morning are like none. Like they came around the corner and I was shocked because, like Karen's usually, working, and Joseph a lot of times like he's up late at night. So at the time that we were there, I thought he might have been asleep. And here comes both of them. And I actually thought of it. I was like, what I worried about is that I was going to be walking you into the house where no one had been in before us in a couple of days. And it was going to be cold and it was going to be dark, and that the energy of the entities there was going to be very heightened. And if there was anybody around who was hungry, that they might start right off the bat with trying to move something. The fact that we walked in with two other people changed the energy so that I felt like it wasn't, I was afraid you were going to hit like an energetic wall going into that kitchen. But having both of them, two other living beings that the inn is super familiar with, walking in with us, we came in with an energy that was much more like we were guests visiting. And I was like, okay, but I also know their schedules, and what are the odds that they were, not only that they were next door, but that they noticed we were there and came over, because I had texted and said, we're going to be there at a certain time. Just if you see the car, no, it's me. But they, came over, and I was really glad because I think energetically it was a nicer transition.
Yeah, it was very easy, and it kind of took my mind a little bit off of all of the energetic thing, because it was like just small talk as we go in the house, which definitely changed the dynamic. And so I was in the parlor and asked, should I give my introduction here? Will everybody in the house be able to hear it, even though it being on the main level? And so Tava was like, yep, go for it. And so she went out, and I said, and it's really interesting because the first part, the Jenn of the Willows, it's come out of me spontaneously before, but I was a little surprised. I was like, whoa, okay, that is not what I was planning on saying, but that's clearly the right thing. So I said, greetings, I am Jenn of the Willows, priestess of Sekhmet, voice of Archangel Michael, the one who Samael calls the singer, keeper of Omnivara. I come in peace and deep honoring of you and your sacred work. And I wish to honor and respect your boundaries and ask that you respect mine. And in the spirit of that, I want to share with you what my boundaries are. And it's like, you may not step into me, you may not use my body or my voice, you may not touch me without permission, you may make your presence known around me, and I will consider letting someone touch maybe like my hand if there's a really good reason for it, but can't just step in here. And I come offering the gift of song. You probably will recognize my voice because it's been played in here a lot, and so I'm coming to sing for you and bringing gifts. And I felt so much stronger and more empowered, and was like, yeah, all right, I'm good. And of course, I had
Behaved.
asked Archangel Michael. Like, I was
Right,
like, all
right,
right,
right.
Michael, I need you right there, like right here around me, holding the line. And I knew between, Michael and Samael, I was like, nothing's really going to get in. But
They were so well behaved. I still cannot get over it. There were some spirits in that house that can be very rude at times. They were It was like you walked in on Christmas Day carrying the turkey. Everybody was going to be nice because they wanted that song and that music. And I was sitting here going, normally that one we have real issues with. It was best behavior time. And I was like, oh, great. Just treat her, legions better than the way you treat me. And they had an honored guest and they were really excited. And they were kind of elbowing me to the side. And I'm like, yeah, I get it. I'm not going to sing for you. I'm the schmo that's here all the time. Yeah, it was something.
Yeah, so I kind of sang in there some, and then we went upstairs, and I was like, okay, whew, here we go. And we were on the landing, and Tava was like, I think we'll skip that room to the side. Like, maybe we'll come back around to that one. I'm like, okay, I trust you. we'll,
Yeah,
we'll keep
that one
going.
has, I call him Pastor Michael, or people call him Pastor or Preacher Michael. At a lot of paranormal investigations, you can hear what sounds like a Southern preacher really letting loose his fire and brimstone sermon. It's kind of wordless. It's just the cadence, like "Blah, blah, blah, blah." And lots of people have had really unfortunate, sometimes even violent and abusive encounters with him. And I thought maybe that wasn't the first room.
Yeah,
Um,
I appreciate that.
now we also have McMillan on the second floor, who we bring him down for any gathering we're at now and give him lots of attention. And he is super active, and every paranormal team that comes in is like, yeah, that doll is freaking haunted.
Yeah, so
But
McMillan is the soul that is very much embodying a doll there.
and he gropes people. So I was like, okay, on one floor, I've got a room with a gate in it, a room with Pastor Michael, who often says really disgusting things to women. McMillan, who will grope you if you are above a certain bra size. And then I have one room that tends to be fairly neutral. And I'm like, we go for the neutral room first, and then McMillan gate monster.
Yeah, so I was like, all right, this is fine. And I just kind of started singing. And then we went into the room with McMillan. And I was like, all right, I'm working on holding my boundaries and holding my space. And I started singing a little bit. And I mean, instantly, the energy started to raise in the area. And greeted McMillan, and I said I was going to sing. And he was saying something about he remembered my voice from her having played it before. And it was a rich and pleasing tone or something.
Yes. Rich and pleasing tone. And he was so well behaved because he can be a dirty little monster sometimes. He sometimes loves to jump scare you just to amuse himself. And he also, like I said, touches people. And he was just nothing but complimentary and just wanted her to keep going.
Yeah, so you got him out and we're holding him. And I was like, how about instead of, I'll give you a song in lieu of holding you? Because, boy, the visage on that one, that is that's a creepy, creepy doll. Oh my gosh, that is the creepiest face I've ever seen on a doll. I don't know who came up with that, but oh my gracious.
Interesting because we did some research into McMillan, and I think it was Ashley who found it. Apparently, the doll that McMillan uses as his vessel, it's an old woman doll. It was originally part of a set where there's an old man doll out there too somewhere. And
Oh, wow.
it was a couple, and it was really funny. One of the couples came up for auction at a local Winchester auction house. One of our volunteers, Kathy, was like, because does a lot of stuff with the auction house, and she's like, "Hey, should we buy the couple?" And everybody was like, "No,
No.
no, we already have one, and he already gets jealous of other dolls,
Yeah, like the
of other
features are
souls that
really
missed on."
exaggerated. Like it's so creepy.
Yeah,
So I'm like, okay, we'll let you hold him and I'll stand over here and sing. And so I
yeah, I'm
start
used to him.
singing, and we're looking at each other because it was like the whole house was coming alive. There was all this crackling, like it sounds just like the seed bead chimes that I have. There was this crackling like sound in the ceiling and in the walls, and the curtains are moving and things are tinkling, and like you were like, do you hear those footsteps? Like, I mean, it was intense. And I would sing for a little bit and then I would pause and go, do you think it's okay for me to keep singing? Because it was raising the level of energy in that place so strongly that it sounded like the house might just come apart. Like it's kind of held together with memories as it is. And I was like, it may actually, like, I feel like it was very possible that like the roof was going to just blow off, or everything was just going to sort of disintegrate or explode or something. And I'm like, how much of this do we think? You're like, yeah, there's a lot.
McMillan, so the entity can touch, and he's not confined to the doll, but whoever's holding the doll, a lot of times you will feel like I've gotten brushed on the neck. People have gotten pinched. People will get scratched. Usually the guys get pinched, like when McMillan's unhappy with them. It's just like, "Whee!" um, and not to be indelicate, but women with goddess-like bodies, especially in the bust area, as Monty Python would say, huge tracts of land, are very attractive to our spirit, and he will often touch. But I could literally hear his footsteps moving around the room while she's singing, and I'm like, oh, gang, I don't know. Like, and it felt like I had a ton of people knocking on my spine, like, we know we're not allowed in, but we would like to talk to her. Can we just borrow your body for a sec? And I'm like, nope, nope. I'm just literally sitting there going, nope, this is me. This is mine. I'm maintaining my boundaries. Don't do it. Don't do it.
And so I would sing and then pause and go, do you think it's okay for me to keep singing? And then at one point, it seemed like things had reached this like crescendo in the room where it was like, oh, okay, I think maybe that's all we should sing right for this moment. And I could feel this presence around behind me. And that's when you were saying, yeah, he tends to also walk
Macmillan,
around that room. And it
he
was
likes to be behind
so
people.
strong. There was this sense of that kind of starting to try to sort of overlap into my body kind of feeling, and I'm like, oh no, okay, so we calmed that down, and you set him back. You were like, all right, we're gonna set him down. He was like,
We're gonna
hand
put your
me to
vessel
her,
back.
or like, give
Yeah,
me
he
to
kept
her.
give me to. He wanted her to hold him, which he does the pick me up, pick me up, pick me up, or put me in their arms when he wants to. And I guarantee you, if I had handed you that doll, you would have gotten eye movement, hand movement. You absolutely would have.
Yeah, I was
Because he
like,
was
nah, not
witching like a
today.
bad boy with me. And I was just like, nope, we had a good doll experience in the car. Let's leave it there before,
Yeah.
Laird McHorny gets his hands in you.
Yeah, I was like,
So
no, we're not doing that. So you put him back, and we're like, just remember, like, you're giving him like the kind of the little kids before you leave with the babysitter, like, be good, be well behaved, remember what you're supposed to be doing, remember your rules kind of thing.
yeah,
And then you were telling me, you were like, Samael says that he thinks that you and Michael should go into the next room first. I was like, okay, I'll do what Samael says. Why do we have to go first? So I'm like, okay. And as I'm walking towards the threshold, because there's adjoining bedrooms where there's, like two rooms with a door that adjoins them. And so as I'm approaching it, I heard wings out, Umshala. And I was like, okay, yes, all right. So like wings out. So I have my, energetic wings extended. And I'm standing there and I start to sing, and I asked Michael, I was like, be right here, like maybe sort of just step on in as close as you can. And so I'm flapping my wings, and I felt this really strong urge to continue to flap my wings. And so I'm making this almost like undulating kind of motion, because it feels like the wings attach in these muscles that are between your scapulas and your spine. Whereas there's like this line, really kind of where you imagine your wings would probably be attached. And then by moving my shoulders, kind of like sticking my chest out forward with my shoulders back and then sort of pulling my chest back and the shoulders going forward, it's that sort of motion of flapping my wings. And I was like, oh my gosh, they're huge. They were so big that they had to be 10 feet each. And by flapping them, I could cover over half of the room in front of me and over half of the room behind me. So I'm like, okay, as long as I keep flapping my wings, it felt like I was really holding my space. I was like holding that space and not letting anything in. And I was singing and moving energy with my hands and moving. And it was like the sounds just kept getting louder and louder around, and I'm like, whoa, okay. And there's this painting kind of a little bit to the side out and off in front of me that I just kept staring at, going, yeah, I can't seem to stop staring at that. And I'm
That's the
listening to
gate.
Tava. Yep. And then I'm listening to Tava going, you may not step in. You may not step in. You may not take, it's like, this is this. And I wasn't sure if she was talking to things saying, you can't step into me, or her, which, as
Oh,
it
and
turned out, was you.
it was me, because they were not going to mess with, Michael and your wings, but they're very used to me now being open so that they can pop in and give me information. And so you were not only drawing all the entities in the house, but you were attracting attention on the other side of the veil. So you were getting, you know, different entities that pop in and go out of the house and might normally just visit, going, ooh, what's going on in the house? And coming back for a visit all at once. And I was having to very much stand my ground, because we normally have a very good understanding that they will not use me as a meat puppet anymore. Um, because they've done it before. But Samael was saying, oh, like he was just sitting there delighted at how much attention you were garnering. And I was like, yeah, it's real obvious. Everybody's coming to listen. So
Yeah, so
yeah.
I stopped, and you were like, as he says that we're getting quite an audience, and that there are lots of that have gathered on the other side of the gate that don't normally come by here, that it was like, we've gotten quite an audience. I'm like, okay, so that's the gate then. Yeah, you're like, yep, it is right there across in front of you. And so I'm like, all right, maybe we'll just sort of tone it down for a few minutes and like let things settle. Like, I don't know, I don't want to fill the house with more spirits who are now coming
Yes.
in for the concert.
Yeah, we've had that gate break before too, where things got unbalanced. But I think the reason Samael wanted to send you in first, I think he was curious to see if you would sense where the gate was. Right? Like, and you did. You look went in and you looked right dead at it and sang the whole time. And then afterwards I walked in and I'm like, and you're like, yeah, what's up with that area? And I'm like, that's the gate.
Oh gosh. So we're standing there, we're like, all right, well, that was a lot. And you'd then come into the room with me and you were like, I hear all this chattering from like the dolls, and realize that
Mm.
there were all these dolls on the other side in the room where McMillan was, that you don't normally interact with, that
No,
were
they don't
super chatty
usually.
all of a sudden.
Yeah, they do not usually talk. They tend to defer to McMillan, who, does his best to make sure everybody knows that he outranks them. They don't usually talk at all. They're usually very quiet. And you walked across out into the hall, and when you were over near Pastor Michael's room, I went back into the room with the gate. And I was standing on the opposite side of the interior wall where the dolls are. And suddenly there was this knocking on the wall. And I actually knocked on the wall myself, and the sound was not the same. Like, I was like, you know how, like, when you knock on a drywall wall, there's kind of a boom, 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 like a resounding boom. This was a resounding boom, like it was drywall, but when I knocked on it, it's not drywall. It's like plaster and, horsehair and whatever else is in there. So I couldn't recreate the noise, but it had very clearly come from the display cabinets on the other side of the wall. And I've never had that happen before. I've never had them interact in any way with me. McMillan just dominates that room. And this was the first time I was getting sounds both in the chattering and in the banging on the wall. And the banging on the wall startled me enough that I went,
Yeah, because I was like,
because,
oh, are you okay? I'm coming.
and then I was like, yes, somebody knocked on the wall. And then I knocked on it to see if I could recreate the sound, and I couldn't because the wall type isn't the same. And I'm like, all right, somebody in that doll case is banging. And I did not hang out to see who it was because we had the pastor to deal with.
Yeah, so we were in the room then with a gate, and Samael told you, you were like, the pastor is listening, and perhaps try a hymn. So we went over to the room that has the pastor in it. And I guess, do you want to tell a little bit about the pastor first?
Yeah. So there's a lot of theories about him. We don't think he was a resident of the house. At one point, shortly after Joseph got the house, his parents are both Southern Baptist ministers, and apparently they needed places to store stuff. And that room was filled with boxes of church belongings for a while shortly after Joseph took possession of the house. We think he may have come in with those items. Various psychics have said they believe he's a traveling minister of sorts. I've had multiple people report to me very unpleasant interactions with him. A lot of people called him the man in black for a long time. He tends to stand in a corner and he will appear and scare the living daylights out of people. He stands in this one corner where he can see the landing, and there's always this feeling of the sinners are coming in and I'm getting them, like I'm going to catch them in the act, right? And then, like I said, multiple paranormal investigations will be elsewhere on the second floor, and you can hear him preaching out of that room. And also, if he gets like there, we believe it was him. He has physically like pushed people across the room by their throats. There's just a lot of not great energy that comes off of him, and times he appears to be conscious and there. Other times it appears to be residual energy that's almost stuck like in a loop where it's repeating itself over and over and over again, identically, of certain actions that he used to go through, like pacing in the room or standing and waiting to someone doing something sinful. So you have to be careful because you don't know A, if he's going to show up. He's going to be conscious and interactive, or see if what you're going to get is this residual repeat. Um, but what was interesting, and McMillan does not like him. I do not know his feelings towards McMillan, although I imagine they are not sunny. McMillan really clearly has his energy in his space, and the pastor has it in his. I've only had maybe one or two people say that they had any kind of positive experience with him. Um, but what's interesting is Jenn is, of course, the daughter of a man of the cloth. And for the first time I have ever heard him say, he was like, this may be a chance to speak to him. The pastor really gets locked in his own little cycles and his own little grievances and his idea of vengeance. And it's very hard to get a message through to him. He doesn't have to behave that way, that there are other options. And I think Samael was curious that if Jenn sang, we might get a different response from him that might be a bit gentler.
Yeah, so he said, the pastor is listening and perhaps try a hymn. And as soon as I heard that, I knew instantly the hymn that I had to sing. And there was this huge wave of emotion that came over me too. I was like getting all choked up just saying, I was like, I know exactly what I'm supposed to sing. And so we go in, and yeah, Tava kind of took me in there and then was like, yeah, okay, he and I don't get along super well. I'm going to leave and let you guys kind of have your time. And so I went in and I just said, I'm here to, to offer another song. I would love to offer a hymn if you would like it. And I felt really compelled to say, like, I felt all this compassion for him. And I was like, I just want you to know, I hear that you're a pastor, and My father is a pastor and I've grown up in the church, and I thought I have great respect for that position and, the position of pastor and the calling to be a pastor. And I also know firsthand the toll that it takes on someone to be in that position and how everyone holds the pastor and their family to a much higher standard than they do everyone else. And they expect a superhuman level of perfection. And so constantly being, looked at and judged much more harshly than they would judge each other is really challenging. So I just wanted to say that I have great respect for the path that you've chosen, and I come just offering a song. And so I started singing, and I said this was a song that was one of my favorite hymn when I was a kid. And so I thought I would sing it for you, and which is really interesting because it is not a hymn that makes any sense for a child to like. Like there is
It
nothing
isn't.
about it, not the words, not even not the tune, none of it is at all something that would appeal to a child. But for some reason I loved this hymn. And so it was called The Old Rugged Cross. And so I started to sing it. And it's like, on a hill far away stood an old rugged cross, the emblem of suffering. And some versions say sin, some versions say shame. And as I went to complete that line, it was like the entire rest of the lyrics just disappeared. And I know that song backwards and forwards. I've been singing it since I was a small child. And they left. And I was like, all right, I have to pull up the lyrics and get this right and sing this. Like something is interfering with my ability to access it. And so I pulled it out, and then I went back to singing, and it came out so clear. And actually, as I walked in there, I was like, all right, Michael, I need you to like as fully as you can step into me, I need you here, because I know this is going to be this is going to be a tough crowd. And so I started singing, and I sang, and it was just flowing out of me until I got to another line, and it was another line that had shame in it. And I kept trying to sing it, and it's like the melody wouldn't come out right. It was just, I couldn't sing it. And that line was, something about your shame and reproach gladly bared. And I realized after I tried to sing it once or twice, I was like, this is wrong. And I stopped, and I ended up giving this like spontaneous sermon to a ghost minister about like, no, I know why my voice won't sing this, because it is not in alignment with truth. We are not supposed to carry shame. And that it is something that needs to be laid down at the foot of that cross, not something that we carry. And you don't have to carry it. It was like I was in the background watching myself and hearing myself going, so now we're like a preacher? Like, what is going on?
You're in the preacher's room, so you're picking
I
up
tell you,
maybe some of his energy.
I was like, all right. And so I was saying that, and then I went back to singing the rest of it. And in that song too, it talks about an exchange. It's how you like all the shame and reproach, and that you exchange it someday for a crown. And it was so perfect for what he needed. And so we stopped, and I'm like just standing there, and then you came up and were like,
Yeah.
repeat after me.
Yeah. So basically, Samael had said is that this entity is in a shame spiral, that he tries to prove he's holy by catching sinners in the act, but that he knows that he has done some horrible things in his life. So then he gets afraid to move on and do the work that he's supposed to do, because he's afraid he won't be accepted, that he has been too impure. So basically, he's an entity that built his whole life on preaching you have to avoid impurity, when he knows that he is deeply, deeply impure and flawed himself. And so there's just this cycle that goes and goes and goes, where he's constantly trying to put down others, and then that leads to him putting down himself, and it just keeps going. And what Samael had said, he's talked to us about this before, is that one of the reasons why it's wonderful to have humans who talk to the dead is sometimes, if an angel were to come in and try to talk to him when he's in a shame spiral, he's just not going to listen. He doesn't listen. It's overwhelming. It's too much. He can't process that he's going to be accepted when he spent his whole life talking about these are all the hoops you must jump through to be loved, you know. So Samael basically saw an opening that Ben had this guy's attention and that it might be an opportunity to get some words of encouragement in that might lead him to a point where one day he sets down some of the aggressive behaviors he still uses and is able to sort of move on with the work of his own development and return to a place where he feels unified with the all. So Samael literally was like, she's got his attention, repeat after me. And so we were playing basically metaphysical telephone, where
Yeah.
Samael told me something and then I said it to Jen and then Jen said it to the pastor, right? And one of the things is the pastor shows up in certain areas. He has been seen over by the gate before. No one has seen him go over there recently. And I think um, he's so caught up that he doesn't think about the fact that progress can be made. And so Samael was sort of like, see if he'll follow her. Because if you can add a slightly different routine to his path, where he gets outside the exact walls that he has put himself in. Now you're expanding his world a little bit. Now you're bringing him in proximity to what is literally a metaphysical gate that shows there are ways out of the places you put yourself. So we decided to give it a go.
Yeah. So you were like, okay, repeat after me. And it was all these messages on, no matter what you've done, you will be accepted. Like you will be accepted on the other side, accepted into like the kingdom of heaven kind of thing in his kinds of terminology. And you will be accepted exactly as you are right now. And there's a gate in the other room. I promise you, you will be accepted. And various things like that. And initially the message was that the next time Tava comes in, you can let her know if you want to walk in there and see it. And I was like, we're right here, maybe is it safe for me to just ask if he wants me to walk him in? You're like, yeah, let's
Yeah.
let's go for it. Because you'd said when we were there that the only time he had been outside of that room had been to be violent, and that he was
Yeah, most
always
of the time
violent or
that's what it is.
aggressive when he had been outside of that room. And so I went over closer to the corner and held out my hand and explained again about the gate, and that I would be honored to walk him in there if he would like to go in. And he had all of his free will. He didn't have to go, he didn't have to see it, he didn't have to make any decisions there, just if he would just come and look at it. And so I felt him, like his hand in my hand that was outstretched, and we started walking in there. And I was like, okay, maybe another song, I feel like we need to sing something. And Samael suggested Amazing Grace. So Tava and I sang Amazing Grace as we walked out of that room and into the next room, which was like an adjoining bedroom, and out into the foyer, like sort of hallway up there, and into the room with the gate. And then just kind of were there, and you were kind of narrating that he's looking at it, he's considering it, but then it was like some of that shame, fear, guilt stuff was coming back, and he was getting kind of nervous. And
Yeah.
so we agreed to walk him back into the other room, and that was when Samuel was like, just ask him to incorporate this into his routine now. That like and there was something about it, like that he didn't have to hold that routine. He didn't have to keep the same thing, this pattern going. He could break it, and that at least
Yeah.
to add going in and looking at the gate as a new element to his routine. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, go ahead.
It would change his vibration. It was interesting because Samael said, like, right from the beginning, he was like, he's not ready to go where he needs, he's not ready to move where he needs to move yet. He has a lot of work to do. But Samael was like, and also Michael and Samael's presences were really strong,
Yes.
and so it was like that might actually be a little bit of a deterrent for him. But I think Samael wanted a couple things. One, he wanted the relationship built, or perhaps Pastor Michael wouldn't be aggressive towards you or wouldn't be aggressive towards me, so that there would be openings for further conversation later on. And second, if you have a vibration, and we are all a collection of vibrations, and it oscillates a certain way, but you can add one new piece to it, that makes everything vibrate differently. And that different vibration of being able to just walk and hold your hand, even if he doesn't go anywhere, just to walk in and look, now opens the possibility that he can do those things. And that leads to the possibility of him making different choices next time he feels that he needs to be aggressive, or the next time he moves into a shame spiral, or the next time he appears. Now we have a different set of parameters. And that, both of those things, huge steps for this spirit who, when he is in this house, behaves in a very particular, strict, and often aggressive way. So, I mean, Samael was as pleased as punch that you got him to just walk outside the room and go over and look, and that there was no aggression towards you or me while he was there.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
not any of
Not at
it.
all. Yeah, and as we were going back, I think you were saying that he was saying, will you come back and sing? Will you come back
Hmm.
and sing?
And I usually don't get any words off him. People hear echoes of him talking. The words, it's more just a blah, 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 blah. It's the sound. It's not clear words. And that was the first time I had ever heard a clear statement from him. And I
Yeah.
was like, oh, this is a big deal for him.
Yeah, so I said, "All right, I tell you what, let's make a deal. I will promise to come back and sing, and you promise to incorporate going and looking at the gate as a part of your routine." Um, so yeah, so now I have to go back and sing again because I promised that I would come back and do that. And I was just so honored that he was listening and that he trusted me and actually took my hand and allowed me to walk him in there. Was kind of, I mean, just, I was like, oh my gosh, like this is huge.
Was
That
it
was
was
really
interest
neat.
based on his history, and I know some real ugly stories about things that he has done. I was really on edge, like, okay, is he going to behave himself? And I could tell Samael was just like on his toes, ready. Like
Yeah, just in case.
this guy makes a motion towards the singer, and no, the roof really would blow off the house. But it went fine. It went absolutely fine.
Yeah.
It was really, really good.
So we finished that, and Amazing Grace was such the perfect song. The lyrics in these songs were entirely the exact message he needed of, grace, and we're loved and we're held in grace, not because of something that we've earned, or it's not something that you can leave. And I know we're getting really short on time. We could maybe try and do a real quick attic version.
Yes,
Okay, so
quick
then we're
attic.
like, all right, yeah, let's just go on upstairs, and why not go up to the attic, like the the place that a lot of people are like, no, I don't want to, I can't go up there.
I haven't been up there in months. My knee makes it slow going to get up there. And the kids on the third floor, and I bring them toys and stuff. And I mean, I have helped mediate. There was a just argument between them and Mary Elizabeth at one point. But it's just sort of, I tend to operate mostly on the second floor. The third floor doesn't really vibe to me super well. So yeah, so Jen's like, let's go see the kids. And I'm like, all right, this is already an unbelievable day. Why not?
So I just kind of, I'm already like singing my way up the stairs, and I guess we saw the room that has the kids in it, and then there's another room on the other side, which is just odd. I don't know. The energy is really intense in there. And so I'm just singing and singing. And I'm like, boy, the singing is great because I'm emitting all of the energy. So it's like the force of the energy I am choosing and sending out is so strong and stable that it keeps anything from being able to feel like it can get to me. And so I'm like, I feel great. Only my singing gets everybody else stronger and more intense. And then you're having to clean up and deal with the giant mess I'm making by walking around
Oh,
and
it's
doing that.
fine. I mean, they were all in good behavior, and they were so excited to get it. because they've all heard you sing on recordings before. And so it literally was like a rock star came to visit, and they were just really, really enthusiastic. But yeah, there was a lot going on. But I mean, it was fine. Like if I've learned nothing from dealing with these dolls over the last couple months is Samael's taught me to balance the energy of the dead and the inn. It has a lot of different types of energy of the dead. And so, I was getting a full workout.
Yeah, and you were using all the new information, the Mary
All the
Magdalene, like
holy
with the
roots
fingers, the holy
gestures.
roots gestures
Hmm.
and stuff, which was really cool to see in action. So then we go across into the room, and there's just all of these like old toys and wooden toys and things all over, kind of like walking into a kid's playroom where everything was just left where it was. And you discovered a couple new dolls in there. And so we each held a doll and we're like kind of filling them with love. And I'm singing, and I was asking the kid, I was like, do you think that they would know, like old Christian hymns? Because it seemed like, given the history of the inn being, I knew it was like Christian and Quaker, those might be songs they'd know. I sang This Little Light of Mine. And then we sang another kid song, I've got the joy, joy down in my heart. And I remembered, oh, Gabriel had given me this song to sing with these motions. I was like, do you guys want to, learn a song? And Tava was like, yes, they do. So
Yes, please do it.
yeah, so I taught them this new song that Gabriel had taught me that has like these motions and stuff, and it's really teaching them how to open their heart and call light, which helps to clear them. And so I'm singing and we're doing the motions, and you were like, oh gosh, they are really loving it. And so we
They
taught
were
them
way
that,
into
and
it.
we did it like multiple times, and I told them I would make recordings for them of the song so that people could play it for them when we left. But they were, yeah, the children were super, super good, and just seemed to be just joyful and excited to be getting the songs and new interactions.
Yeah, it was really, really good. And like I said, normally the kids, they could give they don't care about me. Like I'm chopped liver unless I'm bringing them a present, and then they're down. Like when they got marbles, they were psyched about marbles. But while you were singing, even like the one rocking chair was moving a little
Oh
bit.
yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
there
I
was
was like,
so
I was
much
like,
movement in the house the
there was a
whole
lot
time.
of movement in that house. Um, and the spirits before have asked for us to hug dolls or puppets or teddy bears and leave them around because then they can take the energy off later when they're hungry. Um, and so we, spent time holding these two dolls that someone had brought for the upper levels of the house. And yeah, it was quite the trip. And like I said, I really expected we'd get there and you'd go, nope, and I'd grab eggs and we'd be on our way and we would try again another day. But instead, I mean, I think we probably spent like an hour with you singing to them, and just some really incredible reactions from not only the house, but from Samael as well. So
Yeah, and
it's
I
good
remember as we
stuff.
were going down the stairs on the way out, you were like, "You have gotten quite the crowd now. It's like the Pied Piper, and the number of beings that are following us down the stairs was just
Yeah.
incredible. We were just walking through with this huge horde, like following all around. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was really off the charts, incredible.
I'm so glad you came out with me that day, both to meet our little doll Anna and to get to walk into the inn.
It was really amazing. I'm so glad that I did it for a million different reasons. It was so good to get to actually be there and see it and experience it and get to fill the space and fill up the spirits there with so much good energy. And I was so honored to have gotten to have the experience that I had with the pastor. And yeah, it was an amazing way to spend your birthday.
It was really funny too because when I first started speaking or trying to start tentatively working with some of the entities in that inn, I would go out for 2 hours and come home and fall asleep for seven. But over time, I've gotten more used to their energy, and Samael's trained me more on what to do, and that doesn't really happen. For the first time in, I would say, 8 or 9 months, I came back from being out there with you, and I slept. I was like, I stumbled into my house basically and was like, must lay down. And I think it was like 6 or 7 hours straight. Then I got up and I went back to sleep not that long later. And I was like, oh, yeah, our activity today was much more than the regular because I'm getting all drained again from having to kind of keep my boundaries strong. So, yeah, it was really interesting. I felt like I had gone back in time about a year. It was really, really neat. But I'm
Yeah,
so
boy,
glad
it's a
you
good
came
thing I
out.
didn't go a year. Can you even imagine before all that if I'd gone a year ago? Like, what would have even
Whoa.
happened to either one of us?
We might have become residents of the inn.
Yeah, very
Yeah,
possible.
good stuff. But well, dears, hopefully we have haunted you sufficiently today. I think it might be time for a little closing song before we say goodbye.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you need to go and I can record the song and do the end of it?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
probably need to go get ready, but I'll just end here and say thank you guys so much for joining us. We really appreciate you tuning in. We hope you have a wonderful, balanced, and slightly spooky week.
Thank you so much. This was
Thank
awesome. Have a
you.
great time. And so Tava has to run because we have talked way longer as usual than we expected to. But I will bring through another song to help to balance everything out and make sure that we send you back out into your day in a really good, energetic space. Hum, 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 So, as I was going into that song, I felt Archangel Michael and Samael as well. And it felt like sending you out into the world with a sense of sovereignty. And we talked really a lot about sovereignty and the importance of holding our own, holding our energy, and making really conscious decisions about who and what we let in and how we allow them to utilize our bodies and our energies. And so this very much felt like a song of sovereignty and helping to remind us of our sovereignty and helping to bring in these additional angelic energies to support us in holding that space. So I hope that it felt good to you and that you're feeling good and strong and sovereign as you head back out into your week. And know that we are with you. And as always, we are so, so grateful that you are along with us on this journey. And feel free to reach out anytime if there is a way that we can be of service. Many blessings to you until next time.